My brother died 3 days ago, and his scent still haunts me. Only now I catch it on his widower. The line hits the inside of my skull like a struck bell the moment I step beneath the canopy of black umbrellas. Rain spiderwebs down the nylon. Someone clears a throat. Someone else clutches a tissue like it owes them money. The pastor talks about endings and beginnings, and I keep trying not to look at the casket as if averting my gaze could unwrite wood. Marcus stands a few paces away, shoulders squared enough to hold up the sky, eyes rimmed red. He wears the same navy coat he wore on the day my brother introduced us. Back when the world had edges you could lean on. Back when the ocean smelled like salt and promise, not salt and rot. I shouldn't be close enough to notice the shift, but I am. Somewhere between the hymn and the part where the pastor says my brother's full name as if it were a door he can open. I inhale, and the world tilts. Cedar and heat, a thread of bergamot. Underneath, a memory of smoke, the scent of my brother's mark. Except it doesn't cling to a headstone or to absence. It wavers, alive, shivering near Marcus's pulse, like an exhausted moth searching for a porch light that moved. No, that can't be right. I blink rain out of my eyelashes and do the stupidest thing. Breathe again. The scent answers like my name called from another room. Cedar, but thinner, echoed, as if someone set a record to the wrong speed. My chest tightens. I grip the wet program until the ink prints onto my palm. Not possible, I tell myself. They were bonded. They were supposed to be safe. But grief, I'm learning, is a list of things that were supposed to be. After the final amen, people funnel toward the reception like human weather. I hear the clatter of plates and the tremble in my mother's voice when she thanks the ladies from church. My sister Tessa moves like a general, pressing hands, shepherding casseroles, intercepting the curious, the pitying, the bored. She shoots me a look that means drink water, and another that means don't pick a fight, and a third that means I love you, idiot. I find Marcus because I can't not. He's where the lawn breaks into gravel, the rain glossing his hair, his hands in his coat pockets like maybe if he keeps them still, the rest of him won't shake apart. Hey, I say, because my vocabulary has been temporarily reduced to soft-core syllables. He tilts his head, those winter gray eyes cutting to me, then away. Jay, hearing my name from his mouth, steadies something I didn't know was falling. You should be inside, I say. It's warmer. I don't feel it, he answers. His voice is quiet sandpaper, the cold. He stares at the hole in the ground. I stare at the knuckles hidden in wool. Neither of us mentions how the scent keeps threading between us. A shy animal testing a stranger's hand. How are you? I start, then choke on all the lie delivery options. Fine. Marcus supplies, and the corner of his mouth twitches. I'm not. But I don't know what else to be. There's 1,000 things I should say. You don't have to be anything. He loved you. We loved him. Instead, I say, Mom's inside because I'm a coward, and also because it's true. She'd like to see you before everyone leaves. He nods and moves. I fall in beside him, an orbit that feels too practiced for a day we're improvising. Inside, the hall smells like coffee and lilies, and the polite exhaustion of people who were told to bring butter but brought stories instead. We make it to the far table where Tessa has staged a defense of napkins. She flicks a glance from me to Marcus, surgical. There you are, she says to him, and her voice gentles. Eat something. You'll faint. I can't lift you and Jay at the same time. I'm not. I begin. You are, she replies, and shoves a plate at me. Don't hover so obviously, baby brother. People can see. I glare. She glares back. This is our family's love language, eye combat. Marcus stands across the table like a photograph misfiled into the wrong album. Then the pastor's wife descends with a casserole, and an anecdote about my brother rescuing a cat from a tree during a thunderstorm. I smile at the right moments. Marcus's jaw keeps tightening and loosening like a hand on a jar it can't open. When the crowd thins to the die-hard cleaners, and the men who won't leave until they stack every chair twice, I catch Marcus slipping toward the exit. I follow, because apparently I'm a shadow now. Let me drive you, I say when we hit the wet parking lot. Please. He looks at his keys, then at me. Rain patters against the brim of his hood. You have people, he says, meaning my mother, Tessa, the casserole army. So do you, I say, and the words come out rougher than I intend. Me. A beat. Then, very softly, okay. We don't talk on the drive. The wipers beat a dumb rhythm, and my hands choke the steering wheel. His house is only 10 minutes from the hall, but it feels like crossing a border. We step into empty. The place is tidy in a way that says, I will keep order because if I don't, I will disappear. The couch remembers my brother's shape. The kitchen remembers his laugh. The lamp by the window remembers how he fell asleep reading and dropped the book like a tent. Marcus shrugs off his coat. The scent eddies, cedar, bergamot, the warning flicker of smoke, and the hairs on my arms rise. I'm 24, not an idiot. I know what instability smells like when an omega has lost a mate without the final seal, without the bones-deep tether that makes a person safe, steady. Without that, the mark can drift, seek. It's rare, dangerous. You read about it in cautionary brochures in clinic waiting rooms, the ones with diagrams and smiling couples that never look like anyone real. Do you want coffee? I blurt, because I do not want to think about pamphlets or how my lungs feel too small. Marcus exhales through his nose, something like a laugh if laughter were fragile. If you're making it, I can make coffee. I have performed this ritual since puberty. I cannot, as it turns out, make it in Marcus's kitchen without creating an incident report. I fumble with the grinder, overfill the filter, and in a move only a true professional could accomplish, I bump the carafe with my hip so it tips, splashes, and baptizes Marcus's very nice, extremely white shirt. We both freeze. A drop slides down, brown on white like punctuation. I start. Your brother, Marcus says, looking down at the spreading stain, at least aimed for the mug. A sound leaves me that the medical community might debate. Half laughter, half apology. Relief swells in my chest, absurd and precious. Marcus presses his knuckles to his mouth, as if to keep the smile from getting out. The kitchen warms by a degree. I'll, get you a towel. I yank the drawer too hard and it skitters off its track. I stare at it. The drawer stares back. Marcus takes the dish towel from the oven handle with the kind of quiet competence that makes me want to put every object in his reach and say, touch this so I know it exists. Here, he says, blotting, then stopping when he realizes he's blotting his own chest in front of me. He holds out the towel like a flag of truce. I take it. Our fingers brush. The scent draws taut, like a string pulled across a violin. Everything in me hums. Jay, he says, very careful. Don't. I'm not. I step back like the floor moved. I'm not doing anything. I'm just, what? Breathing? Existing? Being a disaster in your kitchen because if I stay still, I'll hear my brother's laugh? Marcus sets the towel on the counter and leans on his palms. The tendons in his wrists stand out like roads on a map. I'm not steady, he says, and the confession is a soft grenade. The nights are wrong, the mark. He swallows, eyes skittering away. It feels like a radio half-tuned. Sometimes I think I hear him. Then it's only... He stops. Only me, I finish. And the words are heavier than I expected. I'm sorry. He shakes his head once. This isn't your fault. No. But I'm in the blast radius. We stand there, two statues in a museum no one visits. Rain ticks against the window. Somewhere, a gull screams like it lost a bet. My phone buzzes. A text from Tessa. Home? I text back, helping Marcus. Don't wait up. Her reply pings immediately, Jay. Then, be kind. To him and to yourself. I should go, I say, and don't move. Marcus doesn't either. The scent coils, unsure, like an animal who wants to lay its head down and is checking for traps. Stay, Marcus says, and then flinches as if he didn't intend to say it out loud. I mean, only if you want. The night is worse. If it's a bad idea, I can manage. He says manage the way some people say survive. I could leave. I could be prudent, noble, The good little brother who knows his place in the family portrait. But the truth is this. The thought of him in this too-quiet house with a mark that keeps searching makes my bones feel hollow. "I'll take the couch," I say. I snore. "You do," he says, and a ghost of a smile returns. "Your brother complained." Grief swells again, high and shapeless. I nod because if I talk, it'll break. Marcus pulls an extra blanket from the hall closet and hands it to me, our fingers not touching this time, like we made a rule without speaking. He pauses in the doorway to the bedroom. The white of coffee dried faintly on his shirt like a handprint. "Good night, Jay," he says. "Night." My voice finds its steadiness because his did. When the door clicks, the house exhales. I fold onto the couch, the blanket scratchy in a way that feels like something you can hold. The rain keeps time. In the dark, I listen to the hush of the ocean and the quieter sound beyond it. Marcus's breath, steadying. The mark's pulse is a far-off thing now, a lighthouse blink neither of us asked for. I close my eyes. I'm not sure why I stayed. I only know that leaving felt like letting the tide take something I might be able to anchor. And if that's wrong, if love begins with a list of things you shouldn't do, then maybe I'll start with the smallest act of rebellion I can manage. I will be here when the night turns mean. I will be here when the morning wants proof. I will be here. The first thing I hear is not the ocean. It's the wrong kind of noise. Metal clinking against porcelain, followed by a muffled curse. I sit up on the couch, blanket tangled around my legs, and for a second I forget where I am. The living room is too clean, too symmetrical, like someone arranged grief into neat rows. The faint light of morning cuts across the polished floor. My brother's photos line the shelves, sharp, frames that don't belong to the softness of memory. A museum, I think. A museum that Marcus is forced to live inside. The sound comes again from the kitchen. I push off the couch and follow it. Marcus is there, barefoot, sleeves rolled up, leaning over the counter. The kettle wobbles dangerously in his hand. His skin is pale, damp with sweat, and his breathing is all wrong. "Marcus." I'm moving before my brain signs the paperwork. I catch him by the elbow, just as his knees give. The scent lashes out, sharp and desperate, cedar, bergamot, smoke. It hits me like a strike to the chest, claws down my lungs and then steadies. As if my hand on him is the missing variable in some impossible equation. His head bows, eyes squeezed shut, jaw tight. "Don't," he whispers, but he doesn't pull away. "I'm not doing anything," I say, too fast, too defensive. My fingers tighten on his arm anyway. "You were about to fall." "I've been falling for days," he mutters, voice hoarse. I can't answer that. I just stand there, holding him up while the mark's pulse beats between us like a third presence. That's when the front door clicks. "Jay," Tessa's voice slices through the air like scissors through fabric. A second later, she's standing in the doorway to the kitchen, her coat still damp from the rain, her eyes scanning the scene. Marcus, pale and trembling. Me, gripping his arm like a lifeline. Her mouth hardens. "What the hell are you doing?" I drop my hand too quickly, as if I've been caught shoplifting. Marcus steadies himself against the counter. "It's not..." I start. "Don't," she snaps. "Don't stand there and pretend you don't know how this looks." "Tess." "He's vulnerable, Jay. You think nobody's watching?" Half this town is waiting for a reason to whisper. She folds her arms, shoulders like armor. "You were supposed to look out for him, not..." Her voice cuts off, but the accusation hangs heavy. Marcus's gaze flicks between us, guarded. He doesn't defend me, and maybe he shouldn't. "I'm looking out for him," I say finally, quieter but sharper. "Do you think I'd let him collapse on the damn floor?" Silence. Tessa's eyes narrow, searching my face like she's trying to read a confession I haven't written yet. Then she exhales, sharp and exhausted. Or just, "Be careful, both of you." She leaves as quickly as she arrived, the door clicking behind her like a gavel. The kitchen holds its breath. Marcus reaches for the kettle again, stubborn, as if nothing happened. "She's right," he says, though his voice shakes. "This isn't safe." "For who?" I ask. "For you." Or for me. His mouth curves, bitter, both. And here's the worst part. My first instinct isn't guilt or denial. It's the thought I can't shake. What if I don't only feel responsible? What if I want this, want him? I shove the thought away, desperate for distraction. Sit down, I tell him. I'll make breakfast. He gives me a look like he's weighing whether to argue. Then, maybe out of pity. He lowers himself into a chair. I raid his fridge. Eggs, bread, something that claims to be butter. How hard could it be? Turns out very. The pan is too hot. The eggs too fast. The bread too stubborn. A curl of smoke winds upward before I even realize what's wrong. The alarm shrieks to life, wailing like an ambulance parked inside the house. Oh, for... I grab a towel, waving it at the smoke detector like that'll help. The eggs blacken in the pan, a crime scene. Behind me, Marcus starts to laugh. Not politely, not softly. A real laugh. Cracked around the edges, but alive. He covers his mouth, shoulders shaking. I freeze, towel in hand, smoke curling around us. My brother's widower is laughing in his kitchen for the first time since the world ended, and I'm the idiot who made it happen by trying, and failing, to cook eggs. Stop, I say, mock offended. I'm saving your life here. You're trying to assassinate me, he counters, eyes bright with something dangerously close to joy. We fight the alarm together, windows flung open, smoke pushed out into the gray morning. When it finally goes quiet, we're both leaning against the counter, breathless. The air smells like char and cedar and something else, something steady. I realize my hand brushed his wrist in the chaos, and the Mark's frantic pulse has calmed. For the first time since the funeral, the scent doesn't lurch or stutter. It anchors. I pull back slowly. He notices. Our eyes meet. And I know he felt it too. Neither of us says anything. But the silence between us isn't empty anymore. It hums, waiting. The town changes first in the eyes. People who used to wave now study their shoes until I pass, then tilt their heads together like pigeons conferring. The ocean throws its voice against the seawall, trying to drown them out. It fails. I walk Main Street, because pretending I don't hear anything never worked for me. The windows are clean as always, post office bunting, a thrift store dress in the wrong season. A chalkboard sign outside the cafe that reads, "Today's special empathy, limited stock." Noah's doing that on purpose. The bell over the cafe door chirps when I push in. Coffee steam and cinnamon slap me with a memory of mornings when my brother would order something too sweet and pretend it wasn't his. Noah doesn't look up right away. He's tamping grounds like they offended him. When he does look, his gaze drags over my face like a marker finding the underlines. "You look like you tried to sleep and fought the night to a draw," he says. "What's your poison?" "Anything that tastes like a reason to keep doing this." "So, coffee," he deadpans and gets to work. His motions are the same as always, but the silence around us has a different gravity. Two tourists in raincoats study a map, whispering as if that makes them locals. Mrs. Davenport from the bookstore stands in line and pretends to scroll her phone while she obviously monitors me. Noah slides the cup over and hooks a finger at me. "Booth," he says. "Switzerland." I let him herd me to the corner booth, our neutral ground. He drops into the opposite seat and clasps his hands like a coach, ready to deliver bad news and a pep talk in the same breath. "Okay," he says. "I'm going to ask like a human first. How are you?" I stare into the coffee long enough to see my face distorted on the surface. He laughs when I burn eggs, I say, which is not an answer but is also the whole answer. Noah grimaces and then softens. "Right, Jay." He leans in. "You either save him or you wreck him. There isn't a middle lane on this highway." I huff a humorless laugh. "You've been workshopping that line?" "Since the funeral," he admits. I keep thinking. Marcus is a house that got hit by a storm. You can be scaffolding, or you can be the wind that finishes the job. I'm not a storm. It comes out smaller than I intend. "Your last name is King," he says. "You were born weather." His eyes flick to my hands where I'm cradling the cup too hard. "Do you want him because you want him? Or because you want to fix the part of your brother you couldn't protect? The question lands where I've been hiding from it. The scent of cedar and bergamot ghosts the back of my throat in memory, and my chest tightens. Both, I say, before I can make something prettier. I think. I don't know. Noah nods, as if honesty is the only currency he'll accept. Then use both, but don't lie to yourself and call obligation romance. He deserves chosen, not rescued. I glance over his shoulder. Mrs. Davenport meets my eyes and doesn't look away fast enough to pretend she wasn't looking. At the counter, the tourists whisper again, the word widower and brother pinging off the ceramic like poorly aimed darts. Town's got opinions, I murmur. Town's got nothing to do, Noah says. They talked when your brother brought Marcus home. They talked when Marcus started volunteering at the shelter. They talked when it rained on a Tuesday. If you're going to map your life around their mouths, I'll buy you a compass with gossip for north. A smile twitches at my lips, despite everything. You're awful. I'm a public service, he says, and steals one of my napkins to doodle a compass rose labeled north. Shh. EAST, did you hear south? I'm just saying. WEST, bless their hearts. He slides it to me. Proof. I fold the napkin and tuck it into my jacket like a talisman. You think I should stay? I think you already decided you're staying, he says. I'm trying to make sure you do it with your eyes open. When I step back onto the street, the clouds have lifted just enough to make the water look expensive. I cut toward the pier, out of habit. The gulls do their court-mandated screaming. A kid with freckles drops a French fry and swears loyalty to gravity as it vanishes between boards. My phone buzzes. Unknown number. I answer anyway. This is J. King. The voice is clipped, formal, older. The kind of voice that irons its shirts. Yes, this is Richard Hale. He doesn't add Marcus's father because he doesn't have to. We should speak. I stop beside a bench bleached to the color of old bone. About Marcus? Of course about Marcus. He gives me an address like a test I need to pass and hangs up before I can say I prefer essays. I find the house because every house on Bay Street is determined to be found. White trim, blue door, the kind of hydrangeas that only grow for people who make lists for their lists. When Richard opens the door, he looks exactly like the voice. Pressed, precise. His hair is a disciplined gray. His eyes are winter glass. Mr. Hale, I say. Jay. He returns. He doesn't offer a hand. He steps aside and gestures to a room arranged the way a lawyer arranges a closing argument. We sit. He sits like a man who believes posture is a moral category. I sit like a man who slept on a couch. I'll be direct, he says. You need to keep your distance. My son is grieving, and he is vulnerable. Whatever signals he is giving, whatever instability you believe you smell, it is not your job to answer it. I inhale to argue, but he lifts a hand, a gavel again. I am aware of the biology, he continues. We spoke to Dr. Lin. There is risk of the mark looking for a new anchor. But risk does not equal inevitability. Proximity is not destiny. Do you understand me? I think of Marcus in the kitchen, coffee staining his shirt like an accidental handprint, the way the alarm shrieked until our hands found the windows and each other and the house could breathe again. I think of Noah's napkin map burning a square in my pocket. I understand you want to protect him, I say. His mouth tightens. I want to protect his name, and my son along with it. People will say ugly things. They already are. They'll say uglier if he crumples in a public place because no one stood near enough to catch him, I reply. And hear my voice sharpen into something that sounds like my sister when she's ready to fight City Hall. With respect, sir. He's not a rumor to manage. He's a person trying not to drown. Something flickers in Richard's eyes then. Brief, almost human. It makes him look exactly like Marcus around the mouth. I lost a son-in-law, he says softly. Marcus lost a husband. He was loved in this house. He is loved still. I know, I say, and it's not a debate point. It's a reverent fact I'm scared to touch. I'm not trying to replace him. Then don't behave as if you are, he says, the softness gone, the winter back. Stay away until this passes. What if it doesn't? I ask. What if the passing is him folding in on himself because everyone he trusted stepped back? Richard stands. Conversation over. We will handle it, he says. Family will handle it. I rise too. I am family. The words land between us like something fragile and loud. Richard's expression doesn't change, but his jaw works. Good day, Jay, he says, and shows me out. On the sidewalk, I let the air punch back into my lungs. My hands shake the way they do after you carry something heavier than you wanted to admit. The ocean throws itself against the rocks. The town throws more whispers. By the time I loop back toward the market for bread and an apology pastry, I've built a small wall of arguments in my head and labeled them for Tessa, for Richard, for Marcus, for me. I'm halfway down the baking aisle when I realize I don't need any of them to know the simplest thing. When Marcus wavered, my hand steadied the dial. The scent didn't lurch. It anchored. That isn't some cosmic love poem. It's a practical fact with consequences. A vulnerable mark is a beacon to the wrong kind of attention, predators, in all flavors, romantic, social, the ones who want a story to chew. If proximity is medicine, then I'm going to be a pharmacy. At the register, the clerk bags my bread and the pastry I didn't deserve. She hesitates, eyes darting to my face. Tell Marcus. She begins, then fumbles. Just tell him the lilies came late. They're on the porch. I will, I say. Outside the wind shifts, bringing the briny slap of the tide, and from the direction of home, the faint echo of cedar. It threads through the salt like a line I can follow with my eyes closed. The city can whisper itself hoarse. Richard can lock his windows. Tessa can warn me until the walls nod along. But the math refuses to change. When I'm near, he steadies. So I go home. The house is the kind of quiet that makes you hear your blood. The ocean sifts itself against the shore, drag and hush, like a giant breathing in its sleep. I'm on the couch again. Not because we made a rule, but because we didn't. The blanket smells faintly of detergent and thyme. I'm half dreaming when the sound breaks me open. Not a sound exactly. A not sound. The air yanks tight. The mark's scent tears through the dark. Cedar split by lightning. Bergamot scorched at the edges. It hits the back of my throat, and I'm on my feet before the thought forms its verbs. I don't knock. I fail at the concept of doors. Marcus's room is lit only by moonwash and the weak green of the alarm clock. He's half upright, sheets knotted around his waist, hands clawed at his chest like he can unhook the panic if he can find the clasp. Marcus, my voice lands wrong, too loud in the hush. I cross the room in 3 bad steps. Hey, look at me. He doesn't. His eyes are blown wide, unfocused, rimmed by a nightmare he hasn't finished leaving. His breath seesaws. The scent surges and collapses, wild and looking. I catch his wrists. Warm skin, a tremor under it. With me, I say, as steady as I can fake. Right here, his fingers twitch, not quite fighting, not quite asking. His pulse is a drumstick on thin wood. My own heart tries to audition for percussion. I switch to the voice you use to coax a spooked animal, to coax yourself. In, I tell him. 4 counts. Come on, in. I breathe, exaggerated. A dumb show he can mirror. Hold, 2, out, 4, like that. It takes 3 tries for his lungs to remember the choreography. His gaze staggers back to me, then loses me again. I tighten my grip. Not enough to hurt, enough to anchor. Nightmare? I ask, quieter. He nods, once, a jerk more than a gesture. The word splinters. I heard him. I smelled, and then it was. His mouth works around the rest and fails. I know, I say, and I mean it in all the ways. I know what ghosts do with the dark. I know what a mark does when the body it knows is gone. I know what it is to chase air for meaning and find only air. We breathe. In. Hold. Out. The ocean remembers to help. The room remembers. It's a room. The scent softens by degrees, from wildfire to campfire, to the ember glow of someone alive. My hands loosen without letting go. He's shaking. It's not dramatic. It's human. I'm here, I say, and it sounds like a promise because it is one. He blinks, and the world returns to him in increments. My shoulders in the half-light, the cheap t-shirt I threw on, the fact that I'm an uninvited guest in his midnight. His throat works. I woke up, he says, as if reporting a crime he didn't mean to commit. And for a second I thought he was in the hall. I could hear his step. It's always the step, not the voice. A laugh strips itself raw in his chest, and I thought he forgot his keys again, and He swallows. It wasn't him. No, I say. And then it was you, he adds, small, bewildered, not accusation, not praise, just the fact of it. Guilt slices under my ribs so clean it should qualify as surgery. I think of Richard Hale, his posture like a verdict, stay away until this passes. I think of Tessa and the gavel click of the front door. I think of the town with its compass permanently set to gossip. I look at Marcus. Eyes wet, shoulders caved. A man in a museum exhibit labeled, How to Survive Your Own Life. And I make the quietest decision. If this is betrayal, let it be. Let the charge stick to me, not to him. Do you want water? I ask, because I don't know how to carry all that out loud. He shakes his head, jaw tightening like it might crumble otherwise. His hands are still in mine. At some point our fingers stopped being wrist and became palm. I keep thinking I should be better at this, he says, as if competence were a moral category, as if grief were an exam, and I keep failing the multiple choice. You're here, I say. You're breathing. That's all the questions. A tear startles out of him as if the body decided without his permission. He makes a sound like embarrassment tried to be a cough, then another tear, then the rest. I've seen grown men cry. It has a physics to it. Something about gravity learning a new route. Marcus doesn't fall apart dramatically. He leaks, quietly, like a house. After a storm, finding all the places water was always going to find. His shoulders fold in. His forehead dips toward his knuckles, which are, apparently, mine. For a second, I think he'll pull back, apologize to the furniture, put himself away. He doesn't. He lets it happen. Hey, I say, because my vocabulary loves me and refuses to expand under pressure. I shift onto the mattress, edge only, careful, and keep his hands. It's okay. It isn't, he says, wrecked and almost laughing. But thank you for lying. Technically, I said, okay, not good. Legal difference. That breaks something softer. He huffs, wet, and tries to swipe at his face, but can't because I am, still holding both of his hands like an over-enthusiastic safety rail. I let go long enough for him to scrub at his eyes with the heel of his palm. He glares at the ceiling, as if offended by architecture, and the smallest smile drags one corner of his mouth up. You shouldn't be here, he mutters without force. I know, I answer. I'll be here anyway. He nods once, the nod people give to terms they didn't negotiate but can live with. He leans back against the headboard, shoulder brushing mine, like our bodies forgot to pretend we're on separate planets. The scent settles even further. Cedar after rain, bergamot intact. Smoke fading to a story the air will tell later. The clock clicks to 2:17. He tips his head toward me, eyes red and complicated. You're 24, he says, half scold, half wonder. The rest a mess we share. You're too young to sit up with an old man at night. I snort. Please. I was born ancient. My knees make noises when I stand. That's because you play pickup basketball like a hero and stretch like a myth, he says, and wipes his face again, calmer. Also, I'm not old. I'm seasoned, I offer, marinated. He winces at his own joke, then actually smiles at my groan. Terrible. I know. Keep going, I say. I'll call the alarm again for ambiance. He breathes, and it's almost a laugh. The worst of the tremor has left his hands. He turns one palm up on the quilt, like an invitation he can rescind at any time. I lay my hand next to it, not over. Our fingers not touching like the space itself has become a way to be kind. We sit like that while the ocean keeps its contract with the shore. He tells me, in crooked fragments, what the dream pretended to be and where it tore. I tell him, in the same broken grammar, about the way grief steals nouns first and then comes back for your verbs. We construct a language for the night out of breath and pauses and whatever nerves we didn't burn earlier. At some point I realize I'm not bracing for him to apologize. He doesn't. At some point I realize I'm not rehearsing speeches for Richard, for the town, for the ancient tribunal of what will people think. I'm just counting breaths with a man who forgot how to count his. At some point the space between our hands narrows by an inch. We don't comment. We don't need to. You can sleep, I say eventually. I'll keep the night from being stupid. That's an ambitious job description. His eyes are closing, the lash is a dark line, the mouth finally unlearned from the shape of grief. Don't let it promote you. I'll file a complaint, I promise. In the morning, he hums. The sound is nearly nothing and manages to be everything. His shoulder tips into mine. Wait, the exact measure of trust you can't fake. The Mark's scent is quiet now, like a room after company leaves and you realize it feels like home again. Jay, he says, somewhere between waking and not. Thank you. If this is betrayal, I think, and the thought doesn't bite this time, let it be for the right thing. Out loud I say, you're welcome. We stay that way, the night shrinking around us, the waves keeping score. When his breathing evens, something in me unclenches I didn't know I'd been guarding. I watch the window blanch toward a color that isn't quite morning and I understand, without any speeches or drawings of compass roses, that we built something in this room I can't undo. It isn't a promise. It's heavier. It's trust, new and raw, parked between our hands like a living thing waiting to be named. My room at my mother's house still smells like detergent and a boy who left his windows open too often. I shouldn't be here. Not with half my life shifted to Marcus's quiet museum by the water. But I came to swap out clothes and to prove to my mother that I still exist in places where grief didn't plant a flag. The closet is a time capsule that forgot to seal. My brother's old duffel slumps on the top shelf, the canvas soft with use. It shouldn't be here. Half his things were moved to Marcus's place years ago. But Tessa is a hoarder of contingencies, and my brother liked to leave parts of himself in rooms he didn't sleep in, as if he were breadcrumbing his way back to us. I pull the duffel down and it thumps the bed like a body. The zipper protests. Inside, shirts that still remember his shoulders, a wool hat from a winter we talked ourselves out of, a pair of socks that somehow never met each other. Beneath all that is a small black recorder, the kind coaches and detectives and anxious people use, scuffed along one edge. There's tape on it in my brother's handwriting, for me. For later. Later is late. My thumb hesitates over the button. Then I press. Static, then his voice threads the air, familiar enough that my throat closes on it. If you're listening, he says, stop. If you're me, stop. If you're not me, okay. Fine. Jay, if this is you. I sit so fast the mattress squeaks. I'm saying this because the pamphlets were honest and I am not always, he goes on. He sounds like he's in the truck, one of those nights he recorded notes, because if he didn't say things, they got loud. The clinic says our mark won't seal until we do the last step. We kept waiting for a weekend that wasn't on fire. Waiting turned into a lot of things. He laughs once, small and embarrassed. Marcus he's the good thing. He's the kind thing. I didn't know you could be loved that steadily without it getting bored. If anything happens, no. If something happens to me, the mark might go looking. They warned us about the drift, and if it does, you'll smell it. I press the recorder closer to my ear, as if proximity could rewind time. So here's the part I can't say to his face without making it real, my brother says, voice low. Take care of him, Jay. Don't let him go quiet. Don't let him fold into the space I leave. And if the mark does what it does, and if you are the one who steadies it, he pauses, and I hear his breath, the little catch he had when he reached for a truth and it reached back. Don't run. Even if it's you. I close my eyes. Sound becomes pressure. You hear me? He adds, louder, like a joke he needs me to pass. Even if it's you. You always did have weather in your bones. The recording clicks off. The room hums with the air conditioner that doesn't need to be on. My hands are stupid, useless birds. Relief hits first. Violent, shameful. Relief that my brother saw me. that he understood the math I've been doing in the dark and didn't flinch from it. Then guilt, thick as oil, slicking everything I touch. Then anger, a flare so clean it feels like light, at him for being generous from beyond arm's reach, at fate, for turning love into a list of rules, at the clinic brochures that turned danger into tidy diagrams. I press play again. I make myself listen to the sentence I will now carry like a talisman and a wound, even if it's you. By the time I stand, my legs have opinions about gravity. I take the recorder, the duffel, the wool hat, and leave the socks who lost each other to their private tragedy. Marcus answers his door in a gray sweater that makes him look like he belongs to weather. The house looks the same, which is rude of it. "What is it?" he asks, clocking my face. "I found something." My voice is a rasp. From him. We sit on the couch that knows how to hold us all wrong. I set the recorder on the coffee table like it might stain. Marcus's hands fold in his lap in that careful way he has when he expects a blow and plans to meet it with posture. I hit play. My brother spills into the room, alive and not. Marcus's eyes snap shut at the first syllable, as if absorbing the sound will keep it from shattering. He doesn't move otherwise. When the sentence arrives, the one with my name underlined by grief, his eyes open and find mine. It feels like a bridge being both built and burned at once. The recording ends. Silence lands with weight. "He knew," Marcus says, an inch above a whisper. "He knew about the drift," I say. "About what it could do. And about you," he says, and his mouth twists like a knife slipping in its sheath. He tips his head back, stares at the ceiling as if it might intercede. "He blessed us?" The word tastes wrong coming out of him. "That's—" His voice cracks on cruel. He closes his mouth, as if wrapping it around the word would cut him. "He blessed us," he repeats, softer, as if testing whether saying it twice makes it less obscene. "I don't know if it's a blessing," I say. "It feels like permission, or a dare." Permission would have been telling me, he says, anger arriving honest and late, saying it to my face, not leaving a recorder to do the mercy. He scrubs his palms over his eyes. "God, I'm ungrateful." He was trying to be kind. "You're allowed to be mad," I offer. At him, at me, at everything with a pulse. He laughs, harsh, and almost a sob. "You are very generous about what I'm allowed." He leans forward, elbows on knees, the sweater pulling tight across his shoulder blades. "What am I supposed to do with this? Frame it? Play it when the house asks who I belong to?" "You belong to yourself," I say too quickly, like a reflex from a pamphlet about boundaries. "The rest is—" "The rest." He looks at me then with something like pity. "You talk like that because otherwise you will drown in how much you want to help." He's not wrong. The old anger, the clean flare returns. Not at him this time, not at my brother, but at the stupid certainty that any path forward makes someone a ghost. The front door opens, because my sister believes in keys as suggestions. Tessa steps in with a bag of groceries and the moral authority of a small republic. She takes in the tableau, recorder on the table, Marcus gray as slate, me unspooled, and sets the bag down like she might hurl it if provoked. "What did you do?" she asks me, already choosing the answer. "I found a recording," I say. "And you brought it here." "It wasn't a dead snake," I snap, more heat than I intend. "It was his voice." She looks at Marcus, not at me. "Do you want him here right now?" Marcus's mouth opens, closes. It's a cruel question made of love. He meets my eyes, as if the language we made in the dark could translate this moment. "Yes," he says finally, and I can't breathe for a beat that isn't grief. Tessa inhales like she's about to pick up a sofa. "Jay," she says, very calm the way explosives are calm before they do what they were born to do. "You found yourself an excuse." "It's not an excuse," I say. "It's an instruction." "It's both," she fires back. "You are smart enough to know that. He told you to take care of Marcus? You were going to do that anyway. Now you get to pretend the universe notarized it." I stand without meaning to. "Do you want me to leave?" "I want you to stop calling this noble," she says. "I want you to stop pretending you aren't also choosing yourself." I am choosing myself, I say. And the honesty surprises me. That's the terrifying part. Marcus sits very still, watching us like we're weather over water, calculating whether to head inland or let it pass. Enough, he says quietly, and it's both plea and law. He addresses Tessa first. Thank you for defending me, even against people who think they are doing the same. I am grateful. Then me. Thank you for bringing it. I would have hated you if you didn't. Tessa's jaw works. She nods once, clipped, and collects her bag. At the door she pauses, softer than she planned. He loved you, she tells Marcus, like a benediction. That's the only thing that matters, in any tense. She looks back at me and adds, don't be proud of running headfirst into a fire, and then shocked you smell like smoke. When she's gone, the house breathes out. The recorder sits there like a witness who refuses to go home. Marcus takes a long breath in and out, then another, as if testing each for cracks. I'm angry, he says, and the relief of hearing him say it is almost a taste. At him for leaving me this way, at myself for wanting to follow his instructions, at you for being so convenient. Convenient, I repeat, wince smiling. That's my brand. And I'm... He stops, mouth working. His hands find each other, knuckles kissing. God, I'm relieved he knew you'd be there when the night went wrong. That he trusted you not to run. His eyes shine. That's cruel and kind at once. We sit in that oxymoron. The ocean throws a shoulder against the shore. Somewhere a gull sentences a French fry to death. Finally he says it, quiet and unadorned. I'm attached to you. The room doesn't tilt. It doesn't need to. My bones do. I know, I say. And I don't pretend I'm surprised. Me too. He nods, as if we've admitted we're both standing in the same rain. I don't want you to be a replacement, he says. I don't want this to be a replacement. I am terrified that I can't tell the difference. We'll build the difference, I say, reckless with hope. We'll name it every time we feel it. We'll make it boring with repetition until even the town gets tired of the plot. He huffs, broken and amused. You overpromise. I do, I say. And sometimes I can deliver. He reaches for the recorder then, thumbs the tape like a worry stone, and sets it back down without pressing play. His hand stays near mine on the table, not touching. The scent in the room is careful. Cedar pared down to clean wood, bergamot like a quiet room, smoke a story, not a threat. We'll try, he says. Yeah, I answer. We'll try. He looks at me like he's building a future in midair to see if it holds. Stay? He asks. The word, a bridge, not a beg. Even if it's me, I say. And for the first time the line doesn't feel like a theft. We don't touch. We don't need to. The trust we started last night sits between us, alive enough to warm the room. The town will whisper. His father will disapprove. Tessa will audit my motives like a tax return. The mark will test the fences. And still, when I am near, he steadies. When he is near, I choose. My brother asked me to keep him from going quiet. I press my palm to the table, steady as I can make it, and listen as the house learns how to breathe. We don't call it rules because rules sound like we're waiting to break them. We call it a code because codes imply patience, something you learn to read, not something that handcuffs you. I open a new note on my phone at the kitchen table, while Marcus watches me with the wary curiosity of a person who has seen many lists fail their owners. The morning is gentle and salty. The house no longer feels like a museum with a docent. It feels like a place where someone forgot to put the chairs back exactly the way grief liked them. Okay, I say, thumbs hovering. Article 1. Marcus lifts an eyebrow. You're really going to number them. I was born to number things. I type, 1 no rushing. We set our own pace. Not griefs, not gossips. He considers it. Then nods. Add, no pretending we don't want what we want just to look noble. I type, 2 honesty, even when it's inconvenient. No pretending. Article 3. He prompts, resigned and fond. Physical contact only when it steadies you. Us. I amend. And we both agree. Make it clearer. he says, patient like a teacher with an eager kid. What counts as steadies? We argue amicably about definitions for a while, discover the joyless comedy of legalese, and decide steadies means helps breathe without borrowing from the future. I type it that way, exactly. And he laughs soft at the phrasing, like it tickles the inside of his ribs. Article 4, I say. We talk about the town like it's weather. We note it and bring a jacket. But we don't ask it for permission. He reaches over, and with forefinger and thumb drags my phone toward him. He adds, 5. When the night is loud, the other will be the quiet. Then slides it back. Eyes a little too bright, a little too brave. We stop at 5 because the point is living, not writing. At the shelter, it's raining volunteers and drama, as usual. The dogs have opinions about thunder. The cats have opinions about everything. Marcus moves through the noise like he's fluent in survival. He kneels to coax a skittish shepherd out from under a bench and switches to a voice I haven't heard yet, low, working its way toward calm like a river remembers a bend. You don't have to be good, he tells the dog like it's a spell. You only have to be here. The shepherd inches forward, not because it trusts people, but because it trusts Marcus trusting it. The scent around him steadies, cedar pared down to clean lines, bergamot like air after rain. I stand back because our code says I don't have to be the hero when he already is. In the break room, Loretta from intake watches us through the steam of her tea. He's better, she says. Not a question. He's breathing, I answer. She presses a cup into my hand like this is my job description now. Keep him that way. We walk home along the seawall. The town shifting between afternoon and evening like someone's dimming it on purpose. No one says anything out loud, but heads turn in a way that makes Nex a character in our story. Noah pops out of the cafe door with 2 to-go cups and a face that says I refuse to be subtle. I made you something that tastes like reasonable choices, he says, handing one to me, one to Marcus. It's decaf. Marcus inhales the cup, then pretends outrage. You told him... I told him everything, I say, including Article 5. Noah's eyebrows arc. You made a code? Lord help the town, the kings are drafting treaties. We're trying not to trip over ourselves, Marcus says, which is both answer and philosophy. Noah sobers, which he only does when he's about to be inconveniently kind. Good. Because people are going to call it a lot of things before they start calling it true. We sit on the pier and drink decaf like it's a sacrament against bad decisions. I watch the light change on Marcus's face, storm, clearing, that particular half. Color just before lamps click on in the windows of houses we don't live in. We don't talk about the recorder today. We don't talk about Richard. We talk about which of the shelter dogs would make the best mayor. Loretta nominates the 3-legged beagle. I nominate the cat who believes in eminent domain, and about how when you've loved someone, it turns you into a radio that picks up certain stations forever. Sometimes you dance. Sometimes you just listen. That night I decide to cook. Brave, Marcus says when I announce it, like he's watching a magician reach for a saw. I'm evolving, I say, which is optimistic language for what I'm about to do to his kitchen. He leans on the counter and reads aloud from our code. Help breathe without. Borrowing from the future, like a lawyer memorizing precedent. And if dinner tries to borrow from the future, then we declare culinary bankruptcy. I crack eggs into a bowl with more confidence than competence. The pan gets too hot exactly the way pans do when I'm in the room. The smoke alarm takes this personally. Not again, I mutter, fanning it with the code note open on my phone as if contract law can disperse smoke. Marcus laughs. Not careful, not rehearsed. A laugh that releases something backed up behind his sternum. He turns on the fan, opens a window, and instead of rescuing the meal, lets me triage my own disaster. When I finally wrangle the omelet into existence, lopsided, recognizably food if you squint, he claps like a man whose expectations were exceeded by survival. We eat at the table because couches are for other kinds of bravery. He takes a bite and, after a second, smiles with his eyes. It's good. You're lying. I'm choosing kindness, he says. Which is just honesty with frosting. We look ridiculous. Two grown men congratulating a crooked omelet and the absence of an alarm. It feels like winning a small war no one else could see. Tell me your worst case, I say, while we bring our plates to the sink. The fear you edit out of sentences. He rinses the pan, buying time. They'll say I replaced him, he says finally, that I took a boy into my house and taught the Mark a shortcut, that what I feel is a malfunction I chose to name love, because it's easier than empty. I want to kick the town in the shins. I want to crawl inside his chest and put up a sign that says, "Do not enter, work in progress." I settle for this. I'm not a shortcut, I say, and my voice is steadier than my hands. I'm a path we're building, and I'm not his shadow. I'm me. He dries his hands on a towel and turns toward me like I gave him a landmark he recognizes. Say it again. I'm not his shadow, I repeat, slower, letting the words find the places they were meant to land. I'm me. He nods, and something in his posture unclenches like an apology accepted. My worst case, I add, is waking up and realizing I was noble instead of honest, that I called this duty because wanting felt indecent, and now I want, I say, simple and reckless and unhidden, and I choose, both. He doesn't kiss me. That's not our code. Not yet. He steps close enough that our shoulders touch in a way that says we agreed to this, and the Mark scent answers. Steady, grounded, no wild lurch searching for a porch light. Later, we take the long way to the seawall. The wind is unprofessional. The gulls are unionized. We walk without needing to fill the gaps, our code tucked in my pocket like a map for a country we're inventing on the way. An older couple passes us, the woman's eyes doing that quick assessment of scandal that has fed her garden club for years. She doesn't say anything. Marcus's mouth tightens, then relaxes. I keep waiting for it to hurt, he admits. What? Being seen with you like this? He gestures to the space between us, which tonight counts as like this. But it doesn't. It feels accurate. I'll take accurate, I say. Accurate is how you get to good. We sit on the low wall and count boats like people count sheep when they're pretending not to think. He tells me about the first time he met my brother, the way he laughed at his own jokes and translated Marcus's quiet into a language the room understood. I tell him about how my brother once drove through a storm because I forgot my cleats and still made me explain why I hadn't done my laundry. Steady and ridiculous, Marcus says, smiling tiredly. Both. Runs in the family, I answer, and it doesn't break anything to say it. When we head back, the town is lit in pieces, windows like small certainties. At the door, he hesitates the way you do when you know opening it means you've arrived somewhere that won't be the same as the place you left. He doesn't invite me to stay. He doesn't have to. Inside, we add one more line to the code. Not typed, just spoken to the air and each other. We will name what this is, often and out loud, until we forget to be afraid of the name. He writes it on a sticky note anyway, and sticks it under the magnet shaped like a lighthouse. The cracked lid kettle clicks off behind us, sounding like approval. We don't touch. We hover, and the hovering is enough. Obligation is tidy. This isn't. It's better. It asks more and returns more. A paradox that feels like a life. When he says goodnight, the room doesn't go quiet, it goes warm. The Mark is steady, the house is breathing, and for the first time I know in the soft animal part of me that this isn't just caretaking. It's choosing. It's us. The pier at night is a spine of wood breathing in salt. The wind lifts the hair at my neck and combs the water into dark ribs. Lamps along the boardwalk make small moons of themselves and throw them at the tide. Somewhere behind us, the town finishes washing its dishes and sharpening its whispers for tomorrow. Marcus walks beside me with his hands in his coat pockets, like he's keeping his own weather contained. The scent around him is careful, cedar pared down to clean lines, bergamot a quiet brightness. Smoke the memory of a story we keep telling and retelling so it stops biting. We stop at the end of the pier because endings sometimes make good beginnings. I keep trying to figure out if there's a right place to say this. He says, eyes on the black water taking the light and making it its own. The kitchen felt too domestic. The living room felt like a museum some days. The shelter's not fair to the dogs. So here, where the wind can steal it if we regret it. I won't, I say, before my brain can build a softer sentence. Regret it. He looks at me then. The wind makes his eyes water. But not just the wind. You're very young, he says, as if reading from a script he hates and believes. You could choose easier. I tried easier. I huff a laugh that fogs and vanishes. Easier is a trapdoor labeled someday. This, I motion between us, the distance we've learned how to measure, is honest. We stand like that for a minute, letting the ocean perform resilience. I can hear Noah's voice in my head. Use both. Want and duty. I can hear Tessa's. Don't pretend you aren't choosing yourself. Richard's silence grows colder in my pocket. I am attached to you, Marcus says, steady as he can make it. Not because you were standing nearest to disaster. Because you turned toward me when the night asked ugly questions and you didn't flinch. But I need to hear it in words I can live with. Okay, I say. Then words. I step closer until my shoulder almost touches his coat. The scent tightens, waiting. You are my choice, I say. And the word leaves my mouth like it's bigger than the room we brought it to. Not my reflex, not my debt. I am not trying to be your past. I am not trying to win a competition with a ghost, and I'm not trying to prove I can hold what he held. I'm here because when I'm near you, I am more myself than when I'm not. And I want that every day we get. He closes his eyes like he's tasting the sentence. When he opens them, the glint is not lamplight, but relief's first spark. Say the shadow part, he says, gentle, but exact. I'm not his shadow, I answer, speaking into the space like packing it with truth. I'm me. The wind makes a sound like approval through the slats. And me? He asks. Say mine. You are not replacing anyone, I tell him. You're choosing again. You're choosing me. And I'm not a shortcut. I'm the longer road that still gets you home. He laughs, cracked and whole. You overpromise. Sometimes I deliver, I say, and we both smile because we've rehearsed that exchange enough to know where to breathe. We turn and sit with our backs against the railing, legs stretched out. A couple of teenagers, failing at being cynical 5 benches away. Marcus takes my hand without sneaking, palms warm even in the cold. No lurch, no static, just a quiet answer in the scent. Cedar, that means stay. Bergamot, that means here. Smoke changing its job from warning to history. Do you remember the kettle? He asks after a while, chin tipping toward the town like we can see through houses. The crack in the lid you insisted wasn't a crack. I said it was character. I nudge his knee, like the burn mark under the cabinet where I seared eggs. He makes the kind of face you make at art your friend bought and you're trying to support them and the painter. It still works. Like us, I say, and can't help it. I grin. We're the cracked lid kettle. We whistle anyway. He barks a laugh that gets him a glare from cynical bench 3. He returns a solemn nod worthy of a funeral and then whispers, we whistle anyway, like it's the blessing he can bear. Silence returns, a better one. I thread our fingers. I say the thing we both brought here to say. If we do this, I begin. I don't want the mark to feel like a trap you fell into, because biology said, jump. I want to do it because we wrote a code and then we lived it, and at the end of it, we wanted this step. Not because the night is loud. Because the morning deserves to be simple. Marcus looks at our hands, then at the constellation of lights along the shore. I don't believe in omens, he says. But I do believe in sentences that hold. You said you won't try to be his shadow. You said you're choosing me. His thumb presses into my palm, deliberate. Say the last part. I'll be myself, I tell him. And I'll keep choosing you when it's boring, especially then. He exhales, long, a sound like a door opening after winter. Then, he swallows, the muscles in his throat moving like they're learning a new word. Then, I want it. I want us. And I want to stop calling it triage. Okay, I say, and the ocean says okay too. Pushing and pulling like agreement. Then we choose. The last step isn't cinematic. There's no sky tearing, no choir. The world doesn't owe us musical cues. It looks like this, 2 men in coats under cheap pier lamps, breath ghosts meeting and passing through each other. It sounds like this, our code in my pocket, paper soft from being touched, and our voices, sure without being loud. "Are you ready?" I ask. "Yes," he says. "With you." Consent is not a magic spell, and it is the only magic I trust. We hold each other the way we rehearsed in smaller crises, hand to wrist, palm to chest, the exact weight that says "with you," not "at you." The scent rises, not a surge, not a demand, just a clarity. Cedar, bergamot, the faintest smoke that refuses to be threat. It threads into me and finds a place that has been waiting without admitting it. The mark settles. I feel it the way you feel a house exhale when all the lights are turned off and the warmth stays anyway. My breath catches and then evens. His does the same. The world doesn't change. The distance does. We both look a little startled, like a song we kept humming finally remembered its lyrics. Marcus's laugh this time is small and disbelieving, wet at the edges. "Oh," he says, as if the most accurate theology is a vowel. "Oh." We lean our foreheads together because neither of us trusts our knees. The teenagers 2 benches away decide we're either sweet or doomed and move on. The wind keeps combing the water into ribs because the sea isn't impressed by our biology. "Is this where we say something profound?" I ask, voice rough around the joy. He shakes his head against mine, smiling. "I think this is where we admit the kettle is going to leak a little, and that we'll hold the handle anyway." "We'll hold the handle," I echo, "and call Noah in the morning to gloat about decaf not stopping destiny." "Please don't use the word destiny," he says, mock aghast, wiping at his eyes. "I'll never survive Noah wielding that fate," I offer. "Absolutely not." "Fine. Breakfast." I squeeze his hand. "We'll call it breakfast." He laughs through tears, the sound a kind of home. The town will still whisper. Richard will still polish his disapproval. Tessa will still make me prove it every Tuesday. But the pier knows what we did here, and the night knows, and my skin knows. Steady, not searching. We stand because sitting can't hold this much relief. I kiss his cheek, the safest geography, and he turns into it just enough to tell me this isn't bravado, and it isn't pity, and it isn't trying to be holy. It is us. The mark hums low and sure, like a kettle on the stove that knows exactly when to sing. On the walk back, we collect the small stupid jokes the night offers us, a gull who hates romance. A streetlight that flickers when you say replacement and steadies when you say choice. On the porch, the cracked lid kettle waits inside the kitchen like a mascot with bad boundaries. We look at it and start laughing again, useless, relieved. "It still works," he says. "So do we," I answer. We step over the threshold like it's just a floor, and for once, that's what it is. The house breathes with us. The scent is calm. The code stays in my pocket but lives under my skin. We don't have a better word than us, so we use it, mouth to ear, quiet in a room that finally feels earned. It's not triumph. It's lighter. It's 2 people who chose and then kept choosing. The night grinning through its teeth as it lets us pass. Morning slips into the house like it's been invited. The windows are open to the sea, so salt rides in on the breeze, mingling with the smell of coffee brewing too strong because I don't know the meaning of moderation. Marcus leans against the counter in his sweater, mug in hand, looking like someone who found out how to make gravity optional. The knock at the door is brisk, military. Tessa doesn't wait for permission. She pushes in with the authority of an older sibling who considers herself border patrol. Her eyes land on us. Marcus calm, me pouring coffee like I belong here. For a second, her jaw sets the way it does when she's about to draft legislation against my choices. "Well," she says, 1 syllable carrying half the town's opinion. I hand Marcus his cup anyway. "Morning, Tess." Her gaze narrows, tests the air, the scent, the scene. Then something in her face softens. Just enough. "All right," she says, exhaling like a compromise. "Just don't screw this up. Either of you." Marcus inclines his head. "We'll do our best." "Your best better be good," she warns, but her mouth twitches toward a smile. She leaves with the same authority she arrived with, only lighter, as if some of the armor she wore for us finally let her breathe. Later, in the cafe, Noah leans across the counter, handing me my usual cup with a smirk sharp enough to slice bagels. "Congratulations," he says, The town has new material, and they were getting bored of speculating about whose rhododendrons would bloom first. Happy to provide civic service, I reply. Marcus sips his coffee, deadpan. Let them whisper. Noah raises both brows. Oh, they will. The town will always find something to whisper. You're just giving them a better script. He winks and turns back to the espresso machine, humming something that sounds suspiciously like a wedding march. Sunday lunch at Richard Hale's house feels like an exam I forgot to study for. The table is set with precision, silverware aligned like soldiers. Marcus sits across from me, steady, a quiet signal that he won't let me drown. After the meal, Richard clears his throat, the kind of sound that usually means a lecture about duty. Instead, he turns to me. His hand extends across the table, palm firm, steady. For a second I forget how hands work. Then I take it. His grip is brief, strong. He doesn't speak a blessing or a warning. He doesn't need to. The gesture is enough. Recognition, maybe even respect. When he releases me, Marcus's eyes are wet, though he hides it with a sip of water. Back at the house, I decide to prove that omelets can be a repeatable miracle. The pan disagrees. Smoke sighs up toward the alarm, and I curse under my breath. Marcus bursts out laughing, real and unguarded, leaning against the counter for support. You're a menace, he says between laughs. Breakfast terrorism. Untrue, I say, waving a spatula like a flag. This is modern art. A performance piece. It's edible failure, he corrects, still laughing, and the sound fills the kitchen in a way that feels more powerful than any alarm ever could. We eat the wrecked omelet anyway, and it tastes better because we share it. Later, when the dishes are stacked and the kettle hums faintly on the stove, I step out onto the porch. The sea is loud today, the kind of loud that insists on being heard. Salt is in the air, strong and clean, wrapping itself around the smell of coffee drifting from the kitchen. Behind me, Marcus moves about the house, humming low, steady as the tide. The scent of his mark threads through everything. Cedar, bergamot, warmth. And it hits me with sudden, quiet clarity. Home isn't a room or a name or even a family line. Home is salt and coffee. Home is Marcus. The town can whisper itself hoarse. The past can guard its ghosts. We're here, building something new out of laughter, arguments, burnt eggs, and choice. We're not stealing the past. We're building the future, ours,